Notice that the two passionate, fiery people in the room have only met twice. I have to say, this is one of the fastest moving shows I've ever seen. As the saying goes, it's love at first sight. So let's step into the story of Between Us today and take a look at the love story of the elementary schooler and the senior. It's the first day of school, and freshman Noah overslept. He scrambled out the door with his tie in his hand and made it to the gym just in time to brush shoulders with Elijah, the vice president of the swim club. Noah whispered to himself, catching Elijah's attention. He stares at Noah's departing back and doesn't look away until President Henry urges him to. Elijah is in the swimming pool waiting for the new students to sign up. And just as the senior asks Elijah if he's ever met anyone who made his heart race, Noah walks in. Elijah instantly recognized Noah in the crowd, who had come to sign up for the program, and his heartbeat instantly accelerated, and the feeling of not being able to take his eyes off the road came and went. Although he retorted with his mouth that the senior was talking nonsense, he couldn't control his eyes from paying extra attention to Noah because of the large number of people who signed up for swim club this year. A tryout was needed. The freshmen are complaining, and Noah, being a swimmer extraordinaire, reassures them that tryouts shouldn't be too hard. His friends chimed in that he was a special student and was sure to pass. Elijah heard it but, with a cold face, warned those special students, "Don't be too confident first. The selection is based on strength and not on connections. Get ready for tuition if you don't make the cut." Noah was a little worried when he heard this, but luckily, despite Noah's nerves, he passed the audition by a wide margin, and his excellent performance made Elijah pay more attention to him. After the audition, the society organized the freshmen to go to the beach together. The group building. While playing around, Noah is thrown into the ocean by his friends and his foot is cut and bleeding. Elijah, who had been standing around laughing at Noah's playfulness, immediately became upset and heartily helped Noah aside. He got down on one knee and grabbed Noah's foot to clean his wound. Noah screamed out in pain, and Elijah was clearly distressed, but stiff-lipped him into bearing it. It was just a small injury. Noah is not shy about disliking him either. After caring for Noah with the best of intentions, only to be disliked in return, Elijah no longer wants to be bothered with the kid and shrugs it off with an irritated look on his face. Noah, guilty again at this point, calls out to Elijah and thanks him earnestly. While Elijah doesn't react much in the moment, it's pretty clear that he's no longer angry and that he's more interested in Noah. At the evening potluck, Elijah kept staring at Noah, who was grilling, with a look that really wasn't innocent. Halfway through the meat roast, Noah's friends pull him back into the room and drag him along to watch the latest flick. The inexperienced Noah watched it for less than 2 minutes and couldn't help himself. Red-faced and covering his crotch, he was about to go back to his room, but halfway down the road, he got so parched that he couldn't stand it anymore and grabbed a hose on the side of the road and doused his head in an attempt to cool it down. It just so happens that the scene is instead seen by Elijah on the side of the road. He rushed over to turn the water off and looked down only to see Noah's rising crotch and looked up to meet Noah's lust-stained yet innocent eyes. That one tickled Elijah's fancy. He steps closer to Noah, running his hand from his neck to his cheek before wrapping an arm around Noah's waist. Noah grabs Elijah's hand and tries to stop him from going any further. Elijah, however, goes straight down and kisses Noah. Noah is getting more and more aroused by Elijah's teasing, but the thought that he was kissing the club's senior on the side of the road immediately shocked him into pushing Elijah away. Pushed away, Elijah backs off and extends an invitation to Noah. "If you can stand it, follow him to his room." With that, he turned away in style and waited for his prey to take the bait. Noah struggles as he stares at Elijah's back, and in the end desire overcomes reason. He followed Elijah to the room. Elijah, a dude with a bottom line, asks question after question to make sure Noah is sober. Drunk, seeing someone, where is he now, and who am I? With each question, he moved a little closer. He grabbed Noah around the waist, his desire going nowhere after getting the answer to his last question. They kissed with abandon. Elijah pushed Noah down on the bed. When it comes down to it, Elijah suddenly stops and tells Noah to call him his brother. As Noah's cry of brother rang out, Elijah's kiss fell again. The relationship between the two went from normal senior and junior to a one-night stand in this one night. After a wild night out, Noah returns to school, but struggles with the relationship. He kind of wondered if it was wrong to give his first time to an emotionless senior, so he kept searching the internet for posts about one-night stands. Looking at the replies on the post, he told himself over and over again to enjoy it when he decided to and not to feel like he was at fault. But at the same time, he was in an uncontrollable panic, lying on his bed in tears, not knowing how to face Elijah. Elijah, on the other hand, who finally got his hands on the game, clearly has a much different mindset than Noah. He even looked in the mirror and was still reminiscing beautifully about that night of passion. Noah pretends to be sick to avoid Elijah and doesn't go to club practice, but Elijah thought he was really getting a fever from himself and was nervous as hell. Using his position as vice president, he checks out Noah's dormitory and discovers that Noah just happens to live downstairs from himself. So he hurriedly took his meal and knocked on Noah's door. A confused Noah opens the door and wakes up straight away in shock when he sees it's Elijah. He tries to close the door, but Elijah stops him in time, and eventually Elijah manages to break into the room. Looking at Noah's state, Elijah knew he wasn't sick at all, just avoiding himself. His desire to tease the shy Noah was up again. Elijah knowingly presses him for the reason he's not going to training. He took a fitful leap onto the bed and pursued the question again. Pressing on, Noah is forced back against the bed. His eyes panicked, but he's still forcing himself to stay calm. Elijah, who had successfully teased the child, smiled contentedly and got up to prepare the meal. Leaving Noah alone and messy in bed, Elijah forced himself to stay for dinner. At this point, Noah finally remembers to question Elijah about how he knew about his dorm room and how he got in. Elijah violently shoves a spoonful of rice directly into Noah's mouth to shut him up and eat. Elijah then explains while eating that he lives upstairs. After dinner, Elijah starts teasing Noah again, asking him if he didn't feel good that night. Why is he avoiding himself? Noah is poked and prodded and is instantly annoyed and grabs Elijah to kick him out. The reaction made Elijah feel even funnier and continued to ride the wave. He said flirtatiously, but he thought it felt oh so good that night, especially when Noah caught his brother. Hearing this, Noah became even more shy, but pushing Elijah out of the room, he leans against the door himself, covering his face and snickering. The next day at school, Elijah pesters Noah to come along in his car. In the name of saving gas money, Noah dismantles his identity as the resort's young master, but reveals that he's secretly keeping an eye on Elijah. Noah has no choice but to go to school with Elijah. When he arrives at school, Noah's best friend, William, makes him breakfast and asks Noah to help give another breakfast to his future boyfriend, President Henry. When he arrives at the swimming club, Noah gives Henry his breakfast and prepares to enjoy his share when Elijah, who has been watching, snatches the bread out of his hand and drags him along to the dining hall. Noah realizes that Elijah is very caring. Elijah took this opportunity to talk to Noah. He replied that it was probably because he had an unreliable older brother and a younger brother who needed to be taken care of. With that, he talked about his upbringing. He has blonde hair, pierced ears, and lots of tattoos, all because he wants to get his parents' attention. But when he grew up, tattoos became his way of showing himself. With that said, he couldn't help but tease Noah again, stating that the tattoos under my swim trunks are the only ones you've ever seen. Oh, Noah is overwhelmed by the molestation again and hastily takes a bite of his noodles to leave, taking Elijah's bowl in the process. Watching Noah's back as he scrambled away, Elijah smiled in satisfaction. He thought the kid was really getting cute. Noah is a little spaced out during club practice. Elijah takes advantage of the fact that no one is in the locker room and steps closer to Noah, saying that he wants to give him a little encouragement. Noah retreated, leaning against the locker, eyes closed as he waited for Elijah's encouragement. All that was waiting was for the cold drink to be thrown in his face. Stunned and wide-eyed, Noah finally realizes that Elijah is molesting him. Elijah, however, backhanded Noah with a quick kiss, and Noah was really stunned now. After Elijah kisses him, he walks off with a smile on his face, and before Noah can even react, he's walking away. But Noah's a decent kid with a big mouth. After practice, he remembered that Elijah had come along in his car in the morning, so he declined his friend's invitation to come back with him, dawdled in the locker room for a while, and started stealing glances at Elijah. Over. Noah simply can't help himself and opens his mouth to tell Elijah that he's waiting for him outside. Despite the tugging tone and the look of displeasure on his face, what he says is just so adorable that Elijah is practically mesmerized by the kid. Walking outside, he saw Noah sitting dutifully by the pool waiting for him, still pouting when she saw him come out and complaining about how tired she was today. Elijah reached out to pull Noah up, and Noah, momentarily unsteady, lurched forward, his lips grazing the tip of Elijah's nose. This light touch was met with an intense spark, and they couldn't help it, kissing poolside. However, after this passionate kiss, Noah is increasingly unable to face Elijah, and he skips out on the club's training. So Elijah went straight to his class schedule and waited downstairs in the classroom to catch someone. Noah sees Elijah's back from afar and turns tail in terror, not even attending class, jumping into his friend's car and fleeing. His friends warned him that he was going to get a beating if he didn't go to training. Noah, however, still talks tough and says that Elijah isn't his dad or his mom, so why should they be afraid of him? But Noah, who was talking tough 1 second, stood in front of Elijah, the next to be lectured obediently. with only his toes left in his body to retort. Elijah, who was very annoyed at not being able to block anyone, managed to wait until Noah came to training and questioned him fiercely about why he hadn't come in the morning. Even the seniors on the sidelines can't stand to watch, and organized the freshmen to go into the water for practice, saving Noah from a watery grave. After practice, to avoid Elijah, Noah hurriedly packed up his things and followed his friends to the bar. Elijah could see he was hiding, but didn't want to push him too far, so he let him follow his friends away. However, when it got late, Noah didn't come back to the dorm and had to send a message asking where he was. Noah, who is drinking away his sorrows, reads the message but doesn't reply. He continued to sulk and asked about what his friends thought Elijah was like. After learning that Elijah is Supergirl hunting, he gets inexplicably upset again, picks up a glass of wine and slugs it, managing to get himself drunk, and inebriated. Noah is helped out by his friends, only to have Elijah, who can't wait for a reply, stand guard at the door of the bar to catch him early. Shocked by the vice president's aura, the friends rush to hand Noah over to Elijah and run away without daring to turn their heads. A giddy Noah plays on Elijah's shoulder, not wanting to ride Elijah's locomotive. Elijah can't do anything with him, and after scolding him for avoiding training, he has to gently add that he's like this because he's worried about him. He then proceeded to put Noah's helmet on himself and walked him back to his room. Settling Noah down, Elijah was ready to go back to his room, but Noah, who had only just laid down and fallen asleep, suddenly gasped with difficulty, as if he couldn't breathe. Elijah, startled by his state, flutters onto the bed and yells his name. Noah wakes up to Elijah's shouts. Heartbroken, Elijah pulled Noah out of bed and into his arms. Elijah soothes Noah and gently asks him what's wrong, but Noah, who is gradually coming to his senses, blinks his words and just says he's fine. Noah wouldn't talk about it, and Elijah was left to his own devices, leaving his room 3 steps behind. The next day, an unhinged Noah arrives at the club meeting. Henry informs them that there will be an internal competition soon to select those who will represent the school out in the competition. Upon hearing the news, Noah's face hardened. At night, he had another nightmare. In his dream, he saw his brother as a child going to the pool alone to play. His brother had wanted him in the water because there were no adults around, but couldn't resist Noah's pleas. They were playing in the pool. However, Noah suddenly drowned. He struggled in the water, the sensation of not being able to breathe waking him up once more. Every time there's a race, Noah is plagued by nightmares of drowning. Awakened with a start, he could never sleep again. Noah wearily goes to the convenience store to get breakfast and just happens to run into Elijah. Elijah naturally took Noah's basket and helped him with his bill. Seeing the heavy dark circles under Noah's eyes, he gently strokes Noah's face and asks if he can sleep. Noah still chooses to avoid and doesn't want to answer the status quo. Instead of pursuing the matter, Elijah rubbed Noah's head and handed him everything he had just bought. Then he flicked Noah on the head and turned away. While training, Noah stayed up almost all night and was in very poor shape. Elijah stood and watched, getting even more worried. After practice, Elijah is back in the locker room waiting for Noah. He worriedly stroked Noah's black eye and asked how much sleep he'd gotten last night. After learning that Noah only slept for 4 hours and was never able to sleep again, Elijah realized that Noah must have had another nightmare. He sighed and threatened that Noah would have to sleep in his room at night. Despite Noah's reluctance, he dutifully clutches a pillow and makes his way to Elijah's room under Elijah's threat. Noah cowered very cautiously on one side of the bed. Elijah couldn't help but flirt with the kid as soon as he saw how shy he was, asking him to lean in a little closer. After all, they tried it all. Hearing this, Noah is instantly annoyed and after kicking Vin, shrinks further away. During the night, Noah does have another nightmare, and his rapid breathing wakes Elijah. Elijah hugged Noah and soothed him gently. With Elijah's soothing presence, Noah finally shakes off the nightmare and sleeps peacefully in Elijah's arms. Waking up, Noah tries to get up but is held tightly by Elijah. He kicked Elijah off the bed. Elijah rubs his arm, which hurts from the fall, and asks Noah if he has class today. Noah tries to skip class, but Elijah has long since memorized his schedule and crawls right back into bed, dismantling him and stepping in to get him up for school. Elijah rushes Noah up to get cleaned up, and then collapses back into bed and falls asleep himself. When he wakes up, he forgets that Noah is still bathing in his place and goes straight into the bathroom, then rushes away in embarrassment. Noah then got dressed and walked out as well. Elijah touches Noah's head and asks him if he knows he's having nightmares again. Noah replies instead, but this time he's able to go back to sleep. Noah hadn't been able to fall back asleep before when he woke up with nightmares, but with Elijah's soothing presence, he actually slept peacefully through the night. He genuinely wanted to thank Elijah, and very genuinely said thank you to him, and gave Elijah a quick kiss as a token of appreciation. It was Elijah's turn to freeze. This is the first time Noah has ever initiated a kiss on Elijah during the week. After Noah left for school, Elijah returned home, pestered by her brother. Elijah talks about meeting someone special at school. When he spends time with that person, he's extra happy and feels completely different than before. On the other side of the room, Noah is in the locker room, changing and getting ready to go to practice. He opened his locker and saw the drink Elijah had prepared for him, and immediately remembered that kiss Elijah had caught him in and smiled involuntarily. During the night, Noah wakes up with another nightmare. This time, he took it upon himself to knock on Elijah's door. They lay on the bed and Elijah opened his hand and looked at Noah. Without him saying anything, Noah obediently turned into Elijah's arms. They embraced and had a good night's sleep. Early the next morning, Elijah made breakfast and dragged Noah out of bed to eat. He asks Noah to finish his dinner and accompany him to the mall to do some shopping. When Noah doesn't want to, Elijah makes an offer to buy dinner and snacks. Eventually, Elijah manages to lure the gluttonous Noah on a date with 10 bags of chips and a bucket of popcorn. A sober Noah still doesn't want to ride Elijah's locomotive, but Elijah doesn't give him a choice and just puts a helmet on him. Noah jumps in the car with a reluctant look on his face and clings to Elijah's waist. Elijah, having accomplished his goal, smiles triumphantly. He drove to the mall. It's clear that he just finished breakfast, but Noah screams for food as soon as he arrives and grabs Elijah's bowl of shrimp. Elijah won't give it to him, and he complains that you have to be gentle to get a girl to like you. Elijah hears this but offers to feed Noah shrimp and says, "I just want someone here to like someone." Noah's eyes fluttered at the comment. To hide his shyness, he takes a bite of the shrimp Elijah feeds him. After dinner, they went shopping. It was clearly Elijah who said he wanted to buy something, but Noah was the one doing the shopping the whole time. Elijah pays for everything Noah sees, and he ends up sacrificing his cool motorcycle to hand his big bag of snacks for Noah. At night, they watch a ghost movie together, Noah excitedly snacking on it while Elijah is all tears. A ghost jumps out at him on the screen, and he is so frightened that he hides behind Noah. Shivering, Noah finds it very funny that the usually serious vice president of the swimming club is afraid of ghosts, but he doesn't dare to laugh out loud, so he sniggered and covered his mouth. After holding back, he ends up laughing so hard that he collapses on Elijah's shoulder and purposely scares Elijah with his loud voice. Looking at Noah's smiling face, Elijah was suddenly reminded of what his brother had said about someone special. Now he was just watching a movie with Noah and doing nothing, but watching Noah smile made him feel happy already. Isn't that someone special? The two of them hugged each other in a ball, laughing and joking, and the ambiguous yet cozy atmosphere lingered throughout the room. The next day, Elijah drove Noah to school in his locomotive again. As soon as he got out of the car, Noah complained that Elijah was driving all over the place, and several times he thought he was going to be thrown out of the car. Elijah reassured him that "I won't let anything happen to you." But that comment made Noah a little jealous, and he immediately associated it with his friends saying that Elijah was popular with girls, so he must have said that to everyone who rode his motorcycle. But Elijah tells Noah that he's the first person, besides his own brother, to ride on the back of his motorcycle. Oh, and Elijah's answer hit Noah's little heart. Watching Noah's back as he ran off in a panic, Elijah smiled in satisfaction. He arrives at the club meeting in a good mood and teases Henry about dating William every day lately, only to be countered by Henry asking what his relationship with Noah really is. But Elijah is lost for words at the question, and he never thought about his relationship with Noah. As the second son in the family, he had always felt that nothing really belonged to him. He confesses to Henry that his relationship with Noah began as a one-night stand. He didn't know how it was going to end. He just thought it would be nice to have bedfellows for now. But this was overheard by Noah, who was training at the club. It turns out that all the good Elijah did for him was just because they had sex, and he walks away lost. But Elijah wasn't finished with his words. After Noah leaves, he adds that he's being this nice to Noah because he has a crush on him, so he'll worry about him and care about him and want to know everything about him. When Henry heard it, it was clearly love. On one side, Elijah is thinking about what Henry said about love. On the other side, Noah is depressed as hell. He couldn't figure out what he really felt for Elijah, or even if he understood what love was. He approached William to talk about his confusion. William tells him that possessiveness is the difference between friendship and love. At the same time, he accurately guesses that Noah is in a situation, questioning him if he's into someone, and pointing back and calling out Elijah's name. Elijah yanks Noah away as he tries to get back with him, but by the time Noah puts on his helmet, he's lost in staring at Noah. It was obviously the same action, but they both had different mindsets and both started thinking about their feelings for each other. So where does the story go from here? How is this mischievous misunderstanding going to be resolved? Let's see you in the next installment. Because of an accident, the vice president of the swim club, whom they have just met, has a one-night stand with freshman Noah, which subsequently kicks off their bedfellowship. What will happen to the story of the two after that? Let's find out together. As mentioned in the last issue, Noah and Elijah both misunderstand each other, and their relationship goes completely sour. But love creeps in. Elijah, who doesn't snack or listen to music, eats Noah's favorite chips, even when he stayed with his friends. He had his headphones on to listen to the song Noah was playing in the car, trying to get to know him better. It was a total look of falling in love. Noah, on the other side of the room, was also so engrossed in that song that he didn't come back to his senses until his friend, Emma, came along and removed one side of his headphones. Emma spits on him how he keeps listening to the same song, but Noah said that Elijah was addicted to the song when he played it on a loop in the car in the morning. William couldn't help but tease him. Now he's talking about Elijah 3 times a day. After class, Elijah takes Noah and the club's underclassmen and goes shopping for things the club will need for the campus open house. Once at the mall, Elijah sidetracked them and wandered alone with Noah. Noah blatantly abuses his work money by buying his favorite foods. Elijah indulged him in throwing snacks into the shopping cart, even though he kept counting. After the procurement, the schoolboy invites them to go see a horror movie together. Noah immediately remembers the vice president, who towered behind him that night after being scared by a ghost movie. Then as soon as he turned around, he met Elijah's threatening gaze and couldn't help but snicker. He declined his friends' invitations because he didn't want to share it with others, and Elijah looked adorable as he was shocked. Back at school, Noah seeks out William for tutoring. He has a headache because he gets stuck when he reads English, but if he doesn't have enough pus, he won't get a scholarship. William asks him to get tutoring from Elijah, the school bully, but Noah steadfastly refuses, citing Elijah's tendency to tease him too much. William is blown away at how the always high-flying Elijah likes to play tricks on people. Noah accuses Elijah of being a bad person, but William understands that this is a deliberate attempt to get the attention of his beloved. Noah panicked and denied it, but William saw right through them. In the evening, Noah dragged himself back to his room and took a long look at the picture of him and his brother on the table. Images of him and his brother pulling a hoot and making a pact to be together forever flashed through his mind. He dialed the phone and talked to his family, but after his mom mentioned his brother, he ran and hung up the phone. Tears slid down her cheeks as Noah came to Elijah's door clutching a pillow with indigestible emotions. He raised his hand, ready to knock on the door, and afraid it would wake him, so Noah tentatively twisted the doorknob, and to his surprise it actually opened. He walked into the room and found Elijah asleep, but he left half the bed open, waiting for the child, deep in nightmares, to come into his arms for warmth. Noah lay down carefully. Elijah woke up at the sound of Noah's voice, and he turned to hold Noah, soothing him so he could sleep. However, he doesn't pursue Noah's nightmares. Elijah's tenderness is so strong that Noah can't help but want to confide in him and want his tenderness for himself only. Possessiveness in love explodes in this moment, and he can help but ask Elijah, so is it just him? Elijah called Noah's name immediately before he said it. Noah understands that this is Elijah reminding him that he has crossed a line. Their relationship started with a one-night stand and stopped with a bedmate. There should be a relationship, much less a commitment. However, love does not make sense. As Noah turns around in a panic, he apologizes condescendingly and says he's going to pretend he didn't say that. Elijah couldn't stop his heart from hurting again, and he compromised, allowing himself to say to Noah, "Only you." But the promise after promise was too much like a confession, and Noah didn't hold back from asking Elijah, "Are those words begging me to go out with you?" Instead of answering, Elijah asked him back, "What about you? Is it true that you want me to go out with you?" They tried to get each other to save themselves, saving themselves from the nightmares of every night, from the insecurity of not daring to have anything. But they were too cautious, hiding in the safety of this vague relationship, neither daring to take the lead in crossing that boundary line. And so in the end, neither of them answered, silently guarding the delicate balance as they embraced each other. Early the next morning, Elijah wakes Noah up. Noah walks to the bathroom in a daze to wash up and realizes that Elijah has already squeezed his toothpaste. After washing up and coming out, Elijah prepared breakfast again and handed him his bowl of the best meat. Noah sulked and ate his porridge, thinking that Elijah must be this gentle with everyone. But as soon as Elijah saw Noah's pouting mouth, he knew what kind of tantrum the kid was having. Elijah seriously tells him that nothing he said last night was a dream, that you are different, favorite children are always emboldened, and Noah is immediately coaxed into grabbing another egg from Elijah's bowl by screaming for it. Before leaving the house, Elijah takes Noah to the mirror, hugs him from behind, and teaches him to tie a tie. Noah looked at Elijah in the mirror. He might still not remember how to tie a tie, but he would never forget the gentle eyes of Elijah he saw in the mirror this morning. Elijah drops Noah off at the bottom of the classroom and reminds him that clubs are off tonight. Noah waved his hand and was just about to close the car door when he suddenly turned back to Elijah and said, "Thank you, Dad, for tying my tie this morning." After hearing Elijah's reprimand, Noah is content to leave. After dropping off Noah, Elijah heads off to deal with the conflict at home. and Noah had wanted to go back with William after school. But seeing Henry crouched at the door, Noah understood, and he didn't bother the young couple. It just so happened that he was feeling nervous again with the competition approaching, so he ignored what Elijah had said in the morning about the club being on vacation and went to the pool to practice alone. Noah kept swimming, and all of a sudden, he got a cramp, and the pain in his calf made him unable to control his muscles. He struggled to surface but sank deeper into the water. Noah's consciousness fades, and thankfully Elijah jumps in and scoops him up before he loses consciousness completely. Elijah carried Noah to the shore, trembling hands soothing over and over, his body coughing from choking. After watching him breathe slowly and steadily, Elijah couldn't contain himself any longer and loudly reprimanded Noah, but his voice was shaken uncontrollably. But Noah, who has done something wrong, is still talking tough, complaining that he just wants to practice, so why is he being so mean? But it's as if the image of Noah almost dying in front of his own eyes is still playing out in front of Elijah's eyes. Fear mixed with anger made him raise his hand and try to hit the stubborn and disobedient child a little, but his fists, which were full of power, instantly gave out when he saw the tears under Noah's eyes. He couldn't hold it together any longer and held Noah all tightly to him, crying out his fears, just in case he'd come a little late. Noah would really die in front of him. Elijah's crying finally makes Noah realize how much he means to Elijah, and he hugs Elijah back hard, apologizing to him through guilty and heartbroken tears. He kissed Elijah on the lips through tears. They clung to each other by the pool, calming the fear of losing each other with the realness of their embrace. On the way back, Elijah stayed sullen and silent. Noah tries to initiate a conversation with Elijah, but gets no response. He dare not speak again, and Saturday quietly with a secret sigh. But Noah's little gesture was still seen by Elijah. Though still angry, he couldn't help but care if Noah's cramped legs still hurt. But right after that, Elijah starts scolding Noah again for not listening and for lying all the time. Obviously he had reminded him that the club was closed today, and he had to run over there alone. Noah panics and hastily explains to Elijah that he's not lying to him, that he's the only person in the world he has no reservations about anymore. The words softened Elijah's heart instantly, where he could not continue. On the way, Noah fell asleep. When they got to the place, Elijah opened the passenger door and woke him up, bending down to reach down and unbuckle his seatbelt for the sleep-dazed man. Elijah took Noah straight to his house, ignoring the panicked look in his eyes, and helped him on his way. Back in the room, Elijah brought a tray of hot water and sat her down directly on the floor, cooling up Noah's pants leg, pinning his foot in his lap and massaging his cramped calf with a hot towel. Noah looks down at Elijah, who is gently massaging himself, and asks if he's still mad at him. Elijah sighs at this and instead of answering the question, says that he's so stubborn that he might as well have died unjustly. Who knew that the words would bring back memories of Noah's fear of not being able to breathe underwater? He guessed sharply in disorientation. Elijah realizes that his words have frightened Noah and sits up in bed to apologize to him. At this point, Noah couldn't hold on any longer and turned on his side and hugged Elijah tightly, saying that he couldn't move in the water, and clearly felt the fear of his life passing away. How could Elijah not be afraid? Seeing Noah motionless in the water made him feel like he was going to die too. Elijah gently wipes the tears from Noah's face and soothes him, telling him to stop thinking about it and go take a shower and get a good night's sleep. But when Noah closed the bathroom door, he couldn't control the tears. Early the next morning, Elijah's brother excitedly rushes into Elijah's room and flies into bed. But he hugs two people, scaring him into getting up. Noah laughed a little, trying to ease the awkwardness. During the meal, my brother inquired about Noah's identity with a curious look on his face. Elijah is about to open his mouth for introductions when Noah just interrupts him and introduces himself as the club's underclassman, just in case Elijah says anything bad. Looking at his lustful attitude, his brother instantly understood that Noah must be his sister-in-law. After breakfast, they walked their brother to school together and then returned to the school. There's an in-house competition for the swim club today, and Elijah is scared out of his wits by last night's events. The moment Noah jumped into the water, he couldn't control the fear he felt. It was a moment when Noah's submerged appearance seemed to come back to life. Henry notices that he's not in the right state and voices a reminder to think about his feelings for Noah. He's clearly out of sorts now that he's tense. Elijah recalls the fear of almost losing Noah last night. In that moment, he felt that if Noah died, then he certainly wouldn't survive. He realizes that his feelings for Noah crossed the line a long time ago, but he doesn't want to fall in love with anyone, and he can bear the pain of loss. Elijah chooses to run away and leaves in a hurry before Noah can finish his match. Noah comes ashore and looks around for Elijah. He wanted to ask Henry about Elijah's whereabouts, but he couldn't, so he returned to the dormitory alone. Elijah escapes and goes off to drink and confide in his brother and friends. And Noah, who can't get through to Elijah, clutches a pillow and goes upstairs to find someone. But this time, the door that had been opened for him was locked, and no matter how much he knocked, there was no answer. But even so, Noah was reluctant to return to his room. He just hugged his pillow and Saturday on the floor in front of Elijah's room door until he fell asleep crouched in front of Elijah's room door. He had nightmares again about his brother dying in the pool to save him from cramps and drowning, and that he had killed him. The mournful cries and accusations of his brother's mother haunted Noah's ears again. Elijah hadn't even made it back to the room when he heard Noah's agonized gasp. Elijah, frightened and frantic, runs to Noah and wakes him up with a worried look on his face. Waking up from his nightmare, Noah is still not fully awake and asks Elijah in a daze where he went. Elijah, however, can no longer contain his heartache and takes Noah into his arms with all his might while Elijah apologizes over and over again. But Noah, who has been searching for someone all day and waiting all night, turns around and smiles, reassuring Elijah that he's fine, that he just accidentally fell asleep because he was so tired today. Watching Noah like this made Elijah even more distraught. He then pulls Noah up and brings him into the room. Noah had just Saturday down on his bed and excitedly told Elijah that he had set a new personal best in today's race. Upon hearing this, Elijah felt even more guilty for running off in mid-sentence. He told Noah to lie down and go to sleep while his Saturday on the edge of the bed and gently stroked his head. Elijah is still concerned about the fact that Noah has nightmares even when he sleeps in the doorway, and he asks Noah how he's still doing this even after the tournament. Noah doesn't know, and lately he's been having nightmares more and more often. But as long as he stayed close to Elijah, he didn't have nightmares. Noah smiled and burrowed into Elijah's arms a little more. Then he Saturday on the end of the bed until he had put Noah to sleep and he went to take a shower. The water drenched Elijah's body, and he remembered the feeling of fear he'd felt when he'd fished Noah out of the bottom of the pool. The fear he'd felt when he'd almost lost Noah. Then he remembered what Henry had reminded him once before, that if you don't love, don't give people hope. What was his answer at the time? But then he himself escaped. Elijah came out of the shower and had just Saturday down on the bed to fall asleep when Noah subconsciously rubbed up against him and cuddled up to him. Elijah looks at the dependent child and secretly whispers a promise that he won't leave him again. The next day was an open house on campus, and Elijah put the underclassmen in charge of the game order drawing. Noah is dragged by his friends and is the first to draw, and just so happens to draw the last of the worst that will be caught. Noah was instantly scared, but Elijah looks on and finds it adorable, offering to take Noah to dinner and comfort him. After finishing his meal, Noah was not satisfied and had to continue snacking. Noah comes back from buying snacks and looks at his watch and realizes that his best friend William and President Henry have announced their romance. Noah is happy that his best friend is happy, but Elijah is jealous and says that Noah is so concerned about William that people who don't know him would think he likes William. Noah was straight up shocked, who knows that jealousy is just a front for Elijah, and his real goal is to ask Noah if he cares about him. Noah squirms, probably concerned. Elijah presses on and asks Noah again if that's possessive of him. Noah is clearly becoming more flustered and replies vaguely, "Both, I guess." With that, he hurriedly picked up the plate on the table and quickly left. On the way, they meet their older and younger brothers who have come to look for Elijah. The brother guessed at once that Noah was the sweetheart that Elijah had been talking about at the bar. He asked Elijah if he was ready to stop running away. Right. Elijah, however, says that it depends more on Noah. On the way back after dropping them off, they encountered a couple of people bad-mouthing Henry and William. Noah couldn't hear any of that and went straight up to them, ready to argue with them, who knew that Elijah was pulling Noah tightly, until he pulled Noah to a place where no one was around, and Elijah patiently opened up to him. Elijah hugged him and said gently, "Don't care about those who don't see our worth." But Noah still looked worried. Elijah can't help but ask again, scared, if this is how it will be when things go public with me and you. But Noah says that with Elijah, he's not afraid of anything. He gently puts his fist against Elijah's chest and says to Elijah, "Let's face it together." But he would wait for the day to come when homosexuality wasn't heteronormative. Elijah smiled and rubbed Noah's head, happily pulling him back into the event to play the game. In the evening, after the event, the swimming club met and my friend had a bad relationship and was upset the whole time. The others enlightened him that if you love, say you love, and that saying nothing is what will cause others more grief. That, however, fell on deaf ears with Elijah and Noah. Noah excuses himself and runs to the restroom, but Elijah follows him right up, pins him against the wall, and kisses him right back. He then pushed Noah straight into the toilet cubicle for a big fuck. But another night of passion still didn't bring substantial change to their relationship. Noah is struggling to study for his final exam when the door to his room is knocked on by Elijah. Noah was originally impatient, but when he saw Elijah with a big bag of snacks in his hand, Noah immediately changed his attitude 180 degrees and raised a smile, welcoming Elijah, who had brought snacks, into his room. As soon as he enters, Noah starts peering at the snacks, but Elijah is under strict orders to review one before he can go get one. Desperate, Noah sits back down on the bed and tries to play it safe, but after learning that Noah scored only 5 out of a possible 30, the despair changes to Elijah, who's come to tutor the idiot Noah. Noah, however, doesn't believe that Elijah is really here to tutor him, and he first doubts Elijah's intentions, then his abilities, and finally has to be wary of his strange offers. This left Elijah, the honor student, who had originally come to help him with tutoring for no pay, more or less at a loss for words. In the end, without saying anything, he just came up and kissed Noah on the forehead, and then said he only wanted that as payment, 1 kiss for every tutorial. But Noah gets upset again, and asks if Elijah is tutoring everyone like this. Elijah, of course, is only doing this to Noah. Noah asked again, was it just for him? Instead of being impatient, Elijah looked firmly at Noah and once again told him seriously that yes, only to him. Noah was finally happy again. The next day before school, Elijah suddenly finds, in his bag, a bottle of drink and a small note that says cheer. This look is the work of Noah, the owner of the room. Elijah teasingly asks Noah what it is. Noah said it was to give him support for the exam, like the encouragement he had given his training self in the locker room earlier. Elijah laughed even harder at that and continued to tease Noah, saying that his encouragement at that time was more than just a bottle of drink. After saying that, Elijah even deliberately puffed up his face and pointed his finger at Noah. Although embarrassed, Noah still lifted his head and kissed Elijah on the face. He then started to rush Elijah again, telling Elijah to hurry up and be late, trying to hide his shyness. When he arrives at school, Noah cries to his friends that the test is too hard. Instead, Anna molests him instead. How can she find it difficult? Wasn't there a school bully who tutored him until midnight? Because Elijah snapped a sneak peek of Noah, asleep with a snack in his arms, last night and posted on the social media platform. Noah was even more confused now. But Noah, who went back to the dormitory with Elijah after his exams, was well behaved. Elijah asked him where he would sleep tonight, and he volunteered straight away to sleep in Elijah's room. Elijah laughed outright at this and led Noah back to his room. Before going to bed, Elijah asks Noah if he believes in William's legend of a natural couple put together by a red thread. Noah expresses half-heartedness, while Elijah is skeptical. He thought that the red thread was so thin that it would break with a slight tug. How can it be used to pull a natural couple? Noah is all but amused by the man, who doesn't move romantically in the slightest. But the next moment, Elijah actually took a piece of twine out of the drawer and told Noah that red string was appropriate for kids like Henry and William, and that the two of them would have to use twine to make it work. After that, he also went straight to the top and tied Noah up with a rope. Noah is instantly very speechless and breaks free of the ropes, backhanding them onto Elijah. The two used a hemp rope to laugh and play, and the warm and ambiguous atmosphere lingered throughout the room. Over the weekend, Noah followed Elijah back home to play with his brother. That's when Elijah's mom and dad came home. Elijah introduces Noah to mom and dad as the club's schoolmate, but dad doesn't pay much attention and instead starts reprimanding his brother, who isn't there. His brother argued with his dad on the spot, and Elijah rushed to get Noah to take his brother out first while he talks to his dad. Noah takes his brother away and gently enlightens him. After a while, Elijah's mom came out with a plate of treats. Mom asks Noah if he's Elijah's schoolmate is he, and asks Noah how Elijah is doing in school and if he has a girlfriend. Some of the questions remind Noah again that he is only a schoolboy to Elijah. Noah's mood got depressed again for a moment. He politely declined Elijah's mom's invitation to stay for dinner. After saying goodbye to his brother, Noah left. When he gets back, Noah calls his friends out for a drink. He asks his friends for advice on what it really feels like to love someone. Friends break it down in a second. That person is Elijah, right? Noah is once again shocked, while his friends say it's just too obvious that Elijah is treating him that special way. But Noah is still imagining things, thinking what if Elijah doesn't like him? Instead, the friends make a point of telling Noah to try to be proactive if he doesn't want to lose Elijah. Noah didn't say anything after hearing that, just muffled and slammed himself a large glass of wine. The next day, Elijah asks Noah out to get coffee. Noah playfully asks Elijah to buy himself a drink. Elijah buys Noah, who is not good at English, a drink when he lets him take the order. Noah recites Elijah's favorite drink with a long name, and finally remembers and succeeds in ordering it. During the evening tutoring session, Noah learns and immediately forgets. Elijah has a headache over his fish-like memory. Suddenly, Elijah has a sudden thought and asks Noah what his favorite drink is. Noah, however, read out the long list of names without a second's hesitation. Elijah smiled smugly. Isn't that a pretty good memory? With that, he asked Noah wistfully if he had to do something special to get him to remember. Noah instantly becomes flustered and refuses in a heartbeat, but Elijah thinks it's funny to start molesting Noah again. saying that is so heartless when he's tutoring him for free and buying him coffee. Noah quickly clarified that he had contributed a forehead kiss as tuition in the first place, but he hadn't failed to pay. Elijah, however, explains, but he was talking about charging a kiss as payment for each tutoring session, and now after so many tutoring sessions, he's only given one kiss. After the exam, he'll have to take it back with interest. Oh, Noah listens but whispers a question about what would have happened now if they hadn't had a one-night stand in the first place, but Elijah didn't hear him, and Noah wasn't saying anything about it, offering to lean over and kiss Elijah on the forehead, and then saying that it was a deposit for tuition. After the kiss, he got up and walked away. The next day, Noah passed his test with flying colors, and it was just in time for Christmas, so he would have liked to go out with his friends and have a good time celebrating, but they both have separate dates, and Noah has to go to Elijah with a big bag of snacks in his arms. But he was just about to knock on the door when he hesitated, fearing that Elijah already had an appointment as well, and was ready to go back to his room. Just then the door burst open and Elijah ushered him into the room. Noah happily tells Elijah about passing his exams, spreading his hands and asking Elijah for a gift, who knew that Elijah had simply given Noah the spare key to his room as a gift, so that Noah could come to this safe zone whenever he wanted, without knocking or waiting at the door of his room. Noah is instantly happy and pouts for Elijah to take him out to see the Christmas lights. Elijah frowns for a moment, but agreed. What will happen next? After the Christmas date with Noah, can you break through the current relationship and start a sweet romance? Let's have some fun anticipating it. When a man is willing to stay up late with you to cram, can't stay up all night just to comfort insomnia you, but he is just not willing to say that he loves you. What to do? Today, Noah gives us one of the best answers, so let's take a look. Christmas passed and soon came the swim meet. Noah fidgets nervously in the prep area, and Elijah takes it in stride, pulling him directly into a deserted corner in public and gently asking if he's okay. Noah vents about his insecurities, and Elijah goes up to Noah and gives him a tight hug, telling him it's okay and that no matter what happens, just look to him. Touched by Elijah's comfort, Noah fought back tears and nodded his head heavily several times. He promises Elijah that when he's ready, he'll tell him the reason for his nervous nightmares before the race. Elijah gently wipes away Noah's tears, seeing that he's no longer nervous, and finally, let's go. Elijah grinned and grabbed him to do a good luck spell for him before giving Noah a quick kiss. Taken aback, Noah touches his newly attacked lips and looks around nervously, sheepishly chiding Elijah for what to do in case someone sees him. Elijah just smiled and wished Noah good luck. Noah, who had been promised, touched his mouth and smiled as he returned to the match, getting a good luck spell from Elijah. Noah of course gets first place with no problem. The seniors announced that in celebration of getting good grades in this competition, the club would go on a free trip to Elijah's family's resort after the New Year's holiday. Everyone cheered the good news. The next day, Elijah accompanies Noah as he packs for his trip home. When they parted, Elijah stood by the side of the car, worried that Noah was not safe to drive alone, and asked him to come back early. Noah pouted and winked mischievously at Elijah, signaling reassurance that he'd be home soon. Back home, Noah is excited to hug his mom and dad. Noah made a point of taking pictures and sending them to Elijah during dinner. Mom and dad saw it and teased if he was in love, and the way Noah panicked and denied it confirmed mom and dad's suspicions. Noah happily chatted with his mom and dad about school and the good news of winning the competition. Suddenly, mom asks Noah when he plans to visit his brother. Noah's smirk gradually stiffened. He told his mom that he would take his gold medal to see his brother tomorrow. In the evening, Noah and Elijah called to send New Year's Eve wishes, but before they could talk, Noah saw his brother's mom, Helen, pass by the door. He hung up on Elijah hastily and ran up to greet Helen. Helen asked Noah if he was in college now. Noah replies to her that right now he's in his freshman year. Helen listens and then thinks of her son and says softly that if he were still alive, he'd be a junior in college. Helen's words make Noah's heart hard to bear, but he doesn't dare to show it in front of Helen and holds back his sadness to say goodbye to Helen. At night, Noah squeezes into mom and dad's bed and clamors to sleep with them. He talks to his mom about the conversation he just had with Helen and sadly says again that Helen is still sad. Mom reassures Noah that you have to forgive yourself even if others don't. The next day, Noah brings the gold medal to his brother's grave and tells how much he misses him, adding that he finally won the gold medal back for him. Noah apologizes through tears, choking back tears and asking his brother if he's forgiven him. Suddenly, Noah sees Helen and he scrambles up and hides behind a nearby bush. Helen puts new flowers on her brother's grave and says that she doesn't hate Noah anymore. She just regrets that she shouldn't have let him go play with Noah that day. Noah deadpans his mouth to keep his cries from being heard by Helen. The willfulness of his youth led to the death of his closest brother, and Noah has lived with that guilt for more than 10 years. In each dream, he tortured himself repeatedly. When Helen hated him, he begged himself to be forgiven by Helen, But now that there was no one left to blame, how was he to forgive himself? On the other side, Elijah is looking absent-mindedly at his cell phone, expecting a message from Noah. Just as he was expecting it, Noah's phone rang. Elijah happily picks up the phone, but Noah's cries come from the other end of the line. He hurriedly asked Noah where he was and instructed him to stay where he was and that he would be right there to pick him up. Elijah runs to Noah's house in the pouring rain and arrives to find that Noah has been kneeling at his brother's grave in silent prayer. Noah cries and throws himself into Elijah's arms, going on and on about whether things would have been better if he had been the one to die in the first place. Those words made Elijah's heart unusually heavy. He didn't dare ask Noah what was going on. All he could do was hold him close, rub his back gently, and tell him over and over that it was okay, that he was here. Elijah takes Noah to a nearby hotel, where Noah takes a shower and gradually calms down. He calls his mom to check in, and also finally remembers that Elijah came by motorcycle. Noah regrets that he called Elijah. It's just too dangerous to ride a motorcycle this far away and in the pouring rain. Looking at Noah, Elijah said very seriously that calling him was the right thing to do. No matter where he was, no matter how far away, he would go to Noah. Elijah's tenderness brings tears to Noah's eyes once again as he senses Elijah's genuine concern for him. He wants to tell Elijah about the nightmare that's haunted him for over 10 years, but opens his mouth only to reveal that it was he who killed his brother. Elijah couldn't bear to see Noah grieve any longer, and he held Noah tightly in his arms, telling Noah that he didn't have to force the words anymore, as long as he was safe and sound. The next morning, Noah's mom called. Elijah looks at Noah sleeping and picks up the phone. Mom knew right away that Elijah was the senior Noah was talking about last night. Mom told him that the family had prepared a meal, just waiting for them to come back for dinner, and Noah is actually awake, snickering as he listens to Elijah on the phone with his own mom. Watching Elijah hang up, he immediately turns his head to pretend to be asleep again. Elijah lowers his head and kisses Noah on the forehead before getting up to go wash up. After Elijah left, Noah retrospectively touched the forehead he'd just been kissed on, and sheepishly buried himself under the covers. Back at home, Noah introduces Elijah to Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad watched as Noah pampered Elijah and Elijah doted on him, realizing that this was probably their son's date. After saying goodbye to Mom and Dad, Elijah drove back to school with Noah. Once back in the room, Elijah sat down on Noah's bed with a tired look on his face and nearly fainted when he got up. Noah scrambled to help Elijah sit down, and once he touched his forehead, he realized he had a fever. Noah is blaming himself. Elijah must have gotten a fever because he rode his motorcycle to him last night. Elijah is clearly having a hard time, but still comforts Noah first and says it's not his fault. Noah helped Elijah to lie down and rest, tucked him in, brought him wet towels to cool him down, got him up to take his medication, and kept him up all night. Noah cradled the sick Elijah in his arms, like Elijah used to cradle him in his nightmares. The next day, Anna thought Noah had insomnia again. Noah explains that he was up all night taking care of a patient. Emma was wondering when Henry came by to drop off William. Henry asks Noah how Elijah is doing physically and again tells him not to go to training at night, so go back early and take care of Elijah. Emma and William are curious as to what his relationship with Elijah really is. Noah, however, is struggling with the fact that he doesn't know exactly what his relationship with Elijah is. Noah tells his friends that he and Elijah started out as bedmates and gradually he realized that he couldn't live without Elijah. William gets it right away and asks if Noah is in love with Elijah. Right. Noah doesn't run away from his inner thoughts anymore. He admits his love for Elijah and voices his concerns again. He's afraid that if he confides in Elijah and Elijah can't accept him, he'll lose Elijah completely. William encourages Noah to listen to his heart and be brave enough to confess. If he keeps hesitating, he'll end up losing Elijah. Listening to his friend's enlightenment, Noah made up his mind. In the evening, Noah packed his bags for the resort. Elijah saw that he had put it away and cautiously lay down to get ready for bed. But Noah has only just made up his mind, and for a while it's hard to face Elijah like he used to. He tries to get Elijah to go back to sleep in his room, but Elijah plays along and says he's still sick and won't go anyway. Noah sighed and could only lie down helplessly, letting Elijah hold him. When they arrive at the resort the next day, Elijah drags Noah, who tries to resist, to sleep in a room with himself. After packing up, they went down to the water to play together. Elijah looks on, with a smile in his eyes, at Noah, who is playing happily in the water. His look of falling in love is captured in Henry's eyes. Henry asks Elijah if he's found his happiness. This time, Elijah finally admits it. Henry asks him again when he plans to confess. Elijah looks at Noah and says, probably tonight. In the evening, the club gets together to play Truth or Dare. When it's Noah's turn, Henry glances at Elijah and asks if Noah has a boyfriend. Noah frowns as he looked at Elijah sitting across from him, thinking about their undefined relationship, and finally answered no. Elijah's mood sank for a moment at that answer. After the potluck, Noah sits alone by the river and Elijah comes and sits next to him. Noah points out the brightest star in the sky to Elijah and tells him that it's really relaxing to see the mood. Elijah stared at his adorable look and said that it did lighten the mood. Noah turns his head and meets Elijah's eyes, and the ambiguity is instantly ignited. Elijah kisses Noah gently on the lips, and Noah closes his eyes in response. In the silence of the night, they exchanged loving, gentle kisses. Suddenly, Noah reacted by getting up hastily and breaking the kiss. He hurried back to his room and Saturday frowning, wondering what the hell he and Elijah were doing like this. Elijah came back into the room right behind him, and he pushed Noah down on the bed as soon as he could, then kissed Noah again. Even though Noah hasn't sorted out their relationship yet, he's never been able to resist a kiss from Elijah. Elijah could see Noah's hesitation and he said to Noah, "You can't be afraid of everything in this world, but don't be afraid of me." Elijah puts Noah's hand over his heart and tells Noah to be brave about his feelings. When he finished, he lowered his head again, trying to kiss Noah once more, but Noah snapped and flipped Elijah over onto his back. He answers Elijah's question. It's okay to keep him from running away, but Elijah has to catch up to him. Noah moved a little closer, and just at the moment he was about to kiss, he suddenly remembered that conversation in the locker room. They are now ending their bedfellows right away when they get tired of it. So what's the upcoming fling now? Noah got scared and he got up to stop it all. Noah asks Elijah if their relationship is the same now as it was before. Elijah is clearly full of love for Noah as well, but the words just don't come to him. Noah, saddened by not getting an answer, chokes back a sob and leaves a "Thank you for the answer." Elijah watched Noah's fleeing back and couldn't control his tears. It didn't take long for Elijah to catch up. Noah hastily apologizes for what just happened, but Elijah asks him instead if he's angry. Hearing this, tears welled up in Noah's eyes again. Who was he to be angry or in a position to be angry? Noah doesn't want to say any more, so he grabbed the guitar he had on hand and shoved it into Elijah's hand, changing the subject so he could play it. Elijah plucks the strings and lends his heart to the lyrics, but when the song ends and Noah asks him what he's trying to say to himself by singing it, he hesitates. Noah sighed softly and turned around, taking a deep breath before speaking again. All this time, Elijah has been taking care of himself, sleeping with his insomniac self and tutoring him until midnight. What about him? When was it that he reviewed his homework? And how many nights did he stay up waiting for himself to knock on the door? If being this special person is going to make Elijah work so hard, then he doesn't want to be this special person. Hearing this, Elijah panicked and he lowered his head, unsure of what to say. Noah wipes his tears away and takes the guitar from Elijah's hand, also using a song to reveal his feelings to Elijah. This time the song ends with Noah confessing his love directly to Elijah, who no longer hides his love. If Elijah is afraid to start, then he'll be the one to start it. If Elijah is afraid to love, then let him love. All he wanted to do was ask Elijah to give him a chance to try. Elijah couldn't listen any longer. He hugged Noah hard and with tears in his eyes, he told Noah over and over again, "I love you." Elijah officially asks Noah to date him. They finally express to each other the love that has been hidden in their hearts for a long time. Late in the night when no one was around, with laughter and tears, they embraced and kissed. Back in the room, they continued what they had accomplished before. This time, everything was so gentle, and every kiss that landed on the other was filled with deep love. The next day, they held hands and went to the assembly. The lobby was packed and Noah sheepishly let go of Elijah's hand. Worried about being seen, they sat together waiting to check out, and Elijah looks at William, who is sweetly in love on the sidelines, and sighs that he used to be jealous that William could be in love with someone. But now that he has Noah, he no longer needs to envy William. Noah proudly boasted that Elijah was simply lucky to have met him, who was handsome and kind. Elijah immediately retorts that Noah is obviously very stubborn. Seeing that Noah is about to get angry, Elijah turns the tables and says that he still loves Noah beyond saving. Elijah stares tenderly at Noah, moving a little closer to him as the atmosphere becomes ambiguous. Just moments before eyeing a kiss, suddenly, Noah raises his hand and gives Elijah a big slap. Noah is afraid of people finding out about their affair, but after falling in love, Elijah is like a peacock with his screen open, always wanting to cling to Noah and wanting to show off to the world that he has a wife. Even when Noah and William were saying goodbye, William said the things that made him jealous. It didn't take long for the young couple to celebrate their first Valentine's Day. Noah, in love for the first time, doesn't remember the holiday at all. He didn't react until he realized that his friends had appointments.
วันนี้วันวาเลนไทน์เหรอ
But at this point, it's too late to go gift shopping, because Elijah and the gang have arrived. Emma's boyfriend gets her roses, and Henry takes William out for a candlelit dinner. But Elijah didn't schedule any activities, just went back to the dorm with Noah to watch a movie and eat pizza. However, he got Noah a broccoli doll for Valentine's Day. Noah takes the doll and feels guilty because he didn't have anything for Elijah as a gift. Elijah, however, is unimpressed. Every couple gets along differently and is too embarrassed to give Noah flowers in public like Emma's boyfriend, and Noah doesn't like candlelight dinners in fancy restaurants. Nestling together in the dormitory, watching movies and eating pizza is the happiest way for them to spend the holidays. Listening to Elijah, Noah smiled as he hugged his broccoli doll. He suddenly turned to Elijah and asked if he had heard the legend of Valentine's Day. Legend has it that on Valentine's Day, if couples who love each other kiss under a broccoli doll, they will have a long-lasting love. It's not a legend, it's just Noah cheating on the kiss, isn't it? But Elijah is willing to be tricked, and Noah holds the broccoli doll above his head. The kiss ended, and Noah started eating the pizza. The sauce got all over his mouth, and Elijah couldn't wipe it off when he asked him to. Looking at Noah with sauce on the corners of his mouth, it occurred to Elijah what he wanted for Valentine's Day, and that was a kiss from Noah. He pushed Noah to the ground with one hand. Being sympathetic to Noah's class tomorrow morning, Elijah just wanted to flirt with him. Instead, Noah ends up offering to give himself out. After Elijah gets up and asks if he doesn't want a gift, this initiative to send up the gift, how can there be a reason not to want it? Elijah, of course, threw Noah into bed to open his presents. Poor broccoli doll, mercilessly thrown to the ground by the young couple. In the middle of the night, Elijah, who is cuddling Noah as he falls asleep, suddenly receives a call from a friend saying that Elijah's brother has collapsed at home. Elijah came to his senses at once and rushed to the hospital with Noah. It turns out that her friend is her brother's play partner, and inadvertently learns her brother's true identity, but is afraid to confess that she is Elijah's friend because she likes her brother. Elijah is worried about his brother's health and angry that his friend is hiding his identity and flirting with his own brother, and the whole thing is cranky. Noah has been there to calm him down, stayed with him at the hospital to deal with his brother, and helped him settle down with his friend who was thrown out on the spot by his brother. That is, until the next morning, when Elijah drives Noah to school and skips class to get ready to go back and pick up his brother from the hospital. Before leaving, Noah sees that Elijah is both tired and moody, and kisses Elijah in public to give him encouragement. At night, he also been waiting downstairs in the dormitory for Elijah to return. Such a thoughtful and sweet boyfriend simply makes Elijah love even more. After settling things with her brother and the family, Elijah is ready to take Noah to the beach with her brother and brother. The location just happens to be in Noah's old neighborhood.
ป่ะบำบัดกัน
While packing, Noah repeatedly touches the gold medal he won back earlier and decides that this time he's going to give it to his brother properly. Things were packed and Elijah just happened to be there to pick up Noah. After the opening of the sweet love Elijah, a change in the previous bad habits of poor expression, even the choice of car out as if the idle play of the domineering president, a variety of luxury cars to Noah to choose. It's so carnal that Noah cries out that he can't take it and raises the broccoli doll to block Elijah's sneaky kiss. The group arrived at the beach, the same hotel as last time. The younger brother pestered Elijah and Noah to sleep in the same room with them. Noah smiles and is ready to agree, but before he can say anything, Elijah rejects him super loudly. Or was it the older brother, who couldn't look away and told his younger brother to stop interfering with the couple's sweet life? Back in his room, Noah pulls out the gold medals. He wants to take Elijah to his brother and tell Elijah about his past. Noah takes Elijah to his brother's grave and gently places the swim team uniform and gold medal on it. With that, he opens his mouth to tell Elijah about the nightmare that has haunted him for over a decade, about himself who went into the water to swim without warming up, without listening to advice, and about his brother who died trying to save him from cramping up and drowning. Before every game, he dreamed of his brother lying on the ground, stopping breathing before his eyes. The guilt was like the pool of water that had drowned his brother in childhood, drowning him all over again each night. For more than 10 years, he couldn't get a break, and there wasn't a moment when he didn't wonder why it wasn't him who died in the first place. Until now, his brother's mother can't come out of her grief, and how can he forgive himself for killing his brother? Noah's sobbing brought tears to Elijah's eyes as he held Noah tightly in his arms and rebutted what Noah had said over and over again. Elijah tells him that being dead doesn't make everything better. Just then, my brother's mom walked out. She didn't realize that her angry words from over 10 years ago had become a thorn in Noah's side. She apologizes to Noah, saying that she said things like Noah killed her brother back then because she was so upset. But after all these years, she has long since gotten over it and has forgiven Noah. Noah hugged her back. At this moment, trapped in his misery, he was finally rescued. After returning to the hotel to get some rest, Noah heads down to the beach to enjoy the ocean breeze and the peace that comes with unloading his inner burdens. Elijah comes to Noah with a drink, thinking to trade a cold drink for a kiss on the cheek from Noah. Noah, however, kisses Elijah right on the lips, almost pissing Elijah off enough to eat him. They played on the beach until the evening. Noah smiled and leaned on Elijah's shoulder, lamenting the fate of the situation. After spending a night of passion at the resort, They could never have imagined that their destiny would be entwined in love after that night, and then they would walk hand in hand for the rest of their lives. Next, Noah won another swim meet, and the club came back to the resort to celebrate. Elijah takes Noah's hand and stands with him on the beach, talking about having a future with each other. Elijah picks Noah up as soon as he can and carries his toddler towards a better future. They will always hold each other's hands with the blessings of their friends and family. This is where the story ends, and I hope everyone finds the love of their life. Well, that's it for today's video. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section, and we'll see you in the next installment.